Oh man, I hate Mondays.
Nah, man, it's Tuesday.
Wait. What day is it?
You know what day it is? Tuesday. Brewsday Tuesday.
Oh, fuck yeah. It's time for Brewsday Tuesday, brought to you by the Cellar and Six Pack Store. Here's DreZ and Big Nate.
Oh, I got mine. It is Brewsday Tuesday, brought to you by the Cellar Restaurant and Six Pack Store in downtown Blacksburg. That sound, I mean, I guess sometimes we have corks on our beers, but you're gonna want one of these ones, Nate. That one is.
I thought I had it. I was overconfident.
I mean, you got to be a real man to pull it like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So we have Adam Fariss from Ironheart Winery. Also, well, I guess we'll get to the other part of it, but you have a distillery down there as well. But Adam is in the house, so we are in Studio B. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for bringing the wine. So we did have 3 bottle openers, but one of them is, I mean, what is that even style? I don't know.
Oh man, Nate's gonna need help with this one too.
Good Lord.
Oh, Nate.
Oh, okay. So I didn't see that clicked in. That is nice.
Yeah, there you go.
I needed help.
See, that's the style that I had over here. But honestly, the ones I'm used to are
like the rabbit ears.
The rabbit ears, man. I think those are the easiest. Those are those you just spin it in there, but it works
for women and beginners.
Yes.
we got one of those
I need to get one of those. That's
battery
that's
operated
advanced.
ones. I should have brought it.
Yeah. That's advanced though. I don't know what kind that is, but I have 2 of them and I'm like, these are worthless. I don't know if I've ever actually opened a bottle of wine with that kind.
So
where it's just a straight, you screw it in and pull.
Yeah. So I had a keychain that was like that. And I guess for in a pinch you could use it, but if you have no leverage and are just pulling the cork straight out, I mean it is.
Yeah,
really
I was,
tough.
and I think if I was standing up and I had more room, I could have done it. But like all that was flashing in my brain is, I'm gonna punch myself in the face.
Yeah, with a sharp object,
and this is gonna be great.
Yeah, that's essentially the ones that you'd see on like a pocket knife, like a Swiss that just has the little corkscrew. It's like, all right, it can get you there, but you're gonna have to work for it.
Yeah.
So, I guess we could just go through. I have the Vidal Blanc that you handed me. Virginia wine 2019 is what this year is. So I'll just pour me a little bit.
The Gandy Dancer.
Gandy Dancer. What can you tell me about the Vidal Blanc?
Yeah, so
Vidal Blanc, right? That's right.
I mean, you can put a little French twist on it.
Yeah, there we go.
So we offer 10 different varieties of wine, ranging from dry reds to sweet whites. When people come to the vineyard, we want to make sure that we can put something in their glass that they'll enjoy. It's not important that you drink a specific wine. It's just that you find something you like. So you've got our sweetest wine option. It's much like a Moscato style wine. So it's like 7% residual sugar, lots of peach aroma and flavor. It's sweet, but it still has a lot of great acidity, so it's pretty well balanced. So it's not like cloying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like. I generally like the sweeter ones. That's why I grabbed this one. Now over there, Nate, you got something red.
The Cab Franc, the Rattle Her Hawks, which is 2019. And if you're watching the video, you can see it. But I'm not going to go ahead and pretend to be an expert. We're going to defer to the man with the mustache.
Yeah. I mean, what man with a mustache doesn't know what he's talking about, right?
It does make someone more authoritative. Like especially Sam Elliott, I would follow him anywhere.
Yeah, right. Especially stash like that. That is quite the impressive mustache, sir.
You know, it's it would be a shame to not share this with the world, right?
If you can do it, do it. You know, I mean, I wish I could grow one of those big old bushy thick beards, but all I get's the goatee. You know?
Right.
But
I think you've got a mustache in the making there.
It'll get there. Maybe one day.
Yeah,
maybe one day.
Yeah. I usually change it up a few times throughout the year. So my wife will get really irritated and I'll shave it off and grow a goatee, and then eight weeks later shave it into a mustache. I think we're 12 weeks into this one or so.
12 weeks.
Yeah.
I think I'm 12 weeks into my current facial hair growth.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I shaved for the first time since I've known my wife for Halloween last year, and it was she was Didn't take too kindly to that.
That was
When you
that
go
was an
clean shaven.
alarming day when you walked in clean shaven. I was confused.
Yeah. When you've essentially had the same facial hair. Like I remember when my dad had a mustache my entire life. And then when I was like 15, he shaved his mustache and we were all like, who is this man?
Yeah, it feels
It
like
is-
a stranger's in
It's
your house.
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Especially something as prominent as yours. I could only
Oh,
imagine,
yeah.
but
Well, I like to mix it up. It's like my only accessory. I can't really carry like a handbag, or I don't really wear jewelry. And so my mustache, my facial hair is the only accessory I can change.
there you
But
go.
people definitely treat you differently when you have an enormous mustache, though.
I can imagine.
It's weird.
Commands respect.
Well, like if you're rocking a huge mustache and you go over to like Virginia Tech and have lunch at fast food restaurant, and there's a big crowd,
Mm-hmm.
you can walk right through them. Like the seas will part.
It's an authority thing. Like, oh, look at this guy.
Yeah, like this dude is crazy.
He's clearly got bigger stuff going on. Let's let him get on
Like-
his way.
Get out of the way and let him get to his burrito. Like I mean, it's a real thing.
Oh, that's funny, man. So, what and
Cab
what-
Franc.
yeah, the
Yeah.
cab franc. Oh, yeah, we didn't even get to finish with that one.
Sorry.
So, yeah, give us the rundown
Yeah.
of the cab.
So we grow a lot of European old world varieties on the farm, Cabernet Franc being one of those. Cabernet Franc is a variety that typically is a blending fruit. So in other regions, you won't see it bottled as its own variety. It'll be in with like a big Bordeaux blend with Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, possibly Petit Verdot. But in Virginia, it grows really well. It's fairly cold hardy, meaning it will overwinter colder temperatures, and it produces pretty well. It's got really nice attributes in terms of flavor descriptors by itself. So you get a lot of really great jammy character. It's going to be a little bit peppery sometimes, a lot of dark fruit flavors. So black cherry, plum. It is pretty heavily oaked. So you get a long lasting vanilla note with some nice oak tannin in it. It's one of our top sellers. So it's a lighter bodied red.
I know you said peppery sometimes or whatever. So I guess, I mean, similar to, I know when I think of different, obviously we mainly drink beer and there's different batches or whatever. And I'm assuming traditionally you do it's an annual thing, like, so this is the 2019 or whatever. So each year it's probably slightly different, right?
Yeah.
Depending
so,
on that, the grapes were growing that year or whatever.
Exactly. You hear people talk about different vintages of wine and this vintage being like the highly sought after vintage.
Mhm.
And it all has to do with the growing season. So, how much rain we had in the spring, summer, and fall of the year. Was there frost damage in the spring or fall? Was there a lot of disease pressure? So if the growing conditions are perfect, meaning you had, fair amount of rain in the spring, but not too much, so you didn't encounter mildew, decent sporadic rain through the summer, and then a nice hot dry fall of the year, and you're producing these big luscious grape clusters that are perfectly clean. You don't have any blight, which would be a mildew or fungus or disease. They're going to get extremely ripe, and the chemistry of that fruit is going to be superb. So the years where you have an extremely wet year, you'll be battling lots of fungus and mildew, and it's really difficult to get those berries to ripen all the way. So you don't get all of the varietal characteristics out of that fruit that maybe didn't get ripened.
So would you say it's more of a, I guess, humidity / wetness category rather than temperature? Because I was going to say, like, how would maybe having such a mild winter? I mean, it barely got below freezing, like,
Yeah.
a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Is that certainly that would affect the yield too, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Or would it just be you're starting earlier, maybe stuff sprouting up sooner? Or
So in terms of the quality of the growing season, it's going to come down to primarily moisture. So how much humidity did we encounter? How many prolonged rain events? So if we have a rain shower in July, that's 3 hours, and then the sun comes out, dries it up,
it's gone.
no problem.
Mm-hmm.
When you have 3 to 5 days of continual rain or heavy fog, where the humidity is 99% for a week straight, that is when you really start to have problems. And so when you have really long wet periods, is just miserable. You also need a lot of sunshine. So if you have lots of overcast days, your fruit's going to suffer because you really need that canopy to flourish. You need the chlorophyll just to be booming and to put a lot of sugar into the fruit. So you need, there's a lot of things at play. When it comes to this kind of fall spring that we had, you're exposing yourselves in the vineyard to threat in terms of the plants are starting to awaken because they think it's time to grow. When you get temperatures that are consistently over 50 degrees at night, the plants will begin to bud. Well, in Virginia, we're guaranteed to have frost through the beginning or middle of May.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the plants are starting to bud now, you could have an inch or better of growth by the time we get to middle of May, and they'll be frostbitten. So as you kill that foliage that's come out, those are called the primary buds. The primary buds have the best fruit. They're the rock stars. You'll get 2 fantastic clusters of high-grade fruit off your primary buds. Kill that bud, you've got a secondary bud. They may or may not give you fruit, and the fruit that they give you may or may not be of good quality. You can kill that bud, and there'll be a tertiary bud, and they're the flunkies. You're basically just growing leaves at that point. You might get a little fruit. It'll be of varying quality. And then if you were to knock the tertiary buds out, there are other buds that will push from within the woodier parts of the vine. And so it won't kill the grapevine, but you basically have no hopes of growing any product. So go ahead.
I was going to say, so for your primary, if you're sitting on that and then you check would you just look at the forecast? Look, we got a cold snap coming. We need to get these now, sort of a thing. Act fast.
Well,
or do you?
So in the spring of the year, so grapevines are perennial. They are much like a small tree or shrub, and they put out every year.
Mhm.
So in the spring of the year, they're starting to bud. So that's the beginning of our growing season. We won't harvest until September.
Oh, okay.
October.
So there's really just nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do. So you see lots of people around the world that will try to thwart that spring frost with the use of air moving machines. So they'll have big fans that will try to create a convection in the vineyard to mix the warmer air with the lower air, with the colder air. So cold air falls just like water would drain.
Mhm.
And so if you can create a convection, there's some hope to raise the ambient temperature some. There's also the use of smudge pots, which are just these very viscous candles that
Oh,
put
okay.
smoke out.
Hmm.
And then some people will try to burn fires in the vineyard to actually get a little bit of radiant heat. Any other option is to sprinkle. So none of those really are good options. If you're going to experience temperatures that get like well below 32, you're going to be in like the 28 degree range, you're hosed. You cannot
Combat that. Yeah.
No. If it's going to drop down to 33 degrees and the weatherman thinks that it's going to blip to like close to 32 right at sunup, so it's not that the air temperature overall is not going to be below freezing, but there's a fear that right at sunup, it might freeze.
Mhm.
Those are the instances where you can
That could-
actually impact the surface temperature by 0.5 degree, which may or may not save some fruit.
Oh my goodness.
That's also a scenario where, like, if you go into our vineyard, the low-lying sections of the vineyard might be frostbit, but the high ground won't because the cold air ran to the bottom. So it's kind of a crapshoot in the spring.
And I want to get some more details about the vineyard itself, but I just realized we still haven't even talked about what you're
I know,
drinking.
but
over
you
there.
got
What did
so
you
much
pour?
science.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
lot. It's a
sorry.
lot going into it, man. There's
Yeah.
no doubt this it's quite the
We
quite
can-
the endeavor.
We can get really dorky about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And growing's the hardest part. I mean, that is the part that you really don't have a lot of control over in many
Mhm.
ways.
Mm-hmm.
So
what a third
Yeah.
bottle? What do you have in your glass?
So we've got a 2021 Chamberson. Again, this is a variety that you'll see bottled in Virginia frequently. Other parts of the world, you may not see Chamberson bottled as its own variety. It's a really fantastic hybrid variety. So the variety that Nate is drinking is a grafted variety. It is old world grape on American rootstocks. You're drinking a hybrid variety. I'm drinking a hybrid variety. Those are bred grapes that are basically intact. They haven't been grafted to another rootstock.
Okay, I was gonna say, what do you mean by grafted? But I guess that's
Yeah.
what it is.
So how deep do you want to go into?
I don't know. Maybe
So you can maybe you can cut the boring stuff out. But the old world grapes, they were exposed to a phylloxera when the conquistadors were traveling the world.
I know that word, conquistador.
Yeah.
There we go. Now we're speaking Nate's language over here.
Yeah. And so all the old world grapes began to die from exposure to the phylloxera and a disease that brought with it. They found that American rootstocks were resistant to that. So all of the old world grapes, meaning, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay, they're grafted to American roots. So the part of the grape that is below the soil is an American native.
Okay.
And above the soil are the European varieties. But the hybrid varieties like the Chamberson and the Vidal Blanc, those are bred. They've been bred to be resistant. And so they are not grafted. They're on their own roots.
Okay.
But like this Chamberson is doesn't have any tannic acid on its own. It's very juicy in character. It's got a lot of dark fruit flavor again, so plum and black cherry. It doesn't have a real mouth drying effect. I tell people it's kind of like a gateway wine from white into red.
Okay. Well, that's nice. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's delicious. I just poured more because, there's a lot to talk about. I have a lot of questions. We don't have too many, sommelier? Would you consider yourself a
No,
sommelier? Or
sommelier,
what's
yeah.
it
Sommelier.
called when you grow and make wine? There's got to be a name for that.
Vintner.
You're not a brewer, but you're a.
Well, so I'm just a poor guy that owns the place, right? Or
You know-
it owns me. But so I manage the vineyard.
Okay.
So I guess you'd call me a vineyard manager and kind of like an owner operator. But we hire two awesome dudes to make our wine.
Okay.
So Rick Hall and Jason Crawley out of Floyd helped me with the wine making process.
Makes
so
sense.
I can't claim that. That's outside of my wheelhouse.
Those Floyd boys, they all got green thumbs, man. So it makes sense that that's where they're from. So give me a little bit of background about the vineyard. So I've actually never been out there. I've driven by it a couple times, and unfortunately, it's always for when I'm going to the New River State Trail to do runs. So I'm not like, oh, let's hop and get some wine. But my mom's a big wino, and I've heard multiple people say nothing but good things about the winery out there. And apparently I know one of the things that my mom has told me secondhand, so it'd be cool to get it from maybe your mouth. But I guess there's a lot of just like cool history right there on that land.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you should stop.
I know. I need to stop.
You really should.
I need to stop. I'll just have a tasting and a bottle and then go run 20 miles.
If you don't like wine, you need to try something at Ironheart because they are the gateway for sure.
Well, thank you.
It is all quite I mean, the one I'm sipping is very good. And again, my mom's been there multiple times, so I've had your stuff before, but it is very great wine. But apparently the experience and even just going to the vineyard is on a whole different level than a lot of the other ones around here.
Well, so we're a mile and a half from the Allisonia access point to the trail. And the trail is the second most visited state park in Virginia, behind First Landing. So like over 1 million people a year will visit the New River Trail. It's 56 miles long. And so in the summer months, an enormous number of people that come by our farm are going to or from the trail, whether it's for a bike ride or for a run or just to walk it or just to see what it's about. And they'll stop on their way because we're right on the route.
So,
to the
like I said,
outside.
every time I go down that way, you go right by it.
Yeah.
So.
And the most, I think probably the most iconic trestle on a trail is in Allisonia. So the huge iron superstructure that you see in a lot of pictures when it comes to trail publications and marketing, that's 1.5 miles from our farm. So the farm's history is all in iron mining and smelting. The railroad ran right from where the trail is, right to the heart of our farm up till Servetus. And from 1882 to 1906, they heavily mined the whole region. There's a blast furnace that sits at the entrance of our farm, which you've driven by and probably seen. It's a huge stone structure with a brick chimney. And they produce like 19 tons of pig iron a day for, the 20 some years that it was in operation. There were 63 tenant houses, 4 general stores, a hotel, post office, a grist mill, the iron producer, a sawmill. I mean, you name it. It was a whole booming little enterprise during its life. And that history is the story of our brand. So I grew up on a farm. I took it for granted that everybody grew up on a farm with 150 years of history because, I mean, I think as a child, you don't really realize that that's a remarkable thing.
I fantasize about your childhood.
Oh,
Just like childhood envy.
yeah.
Nate's a little jelly over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad can't grow a damn thing.
Well, we didn't start growing fruit until 2010. That's actually something we started whenever I had to move away from the farm to find work in Greensboro. I left college right when the economy was going belly up in 2007, 2008. And the only job that I could find with Volvo was in Greensboro. And then the whole 4 or 5 years that I was down there, I was like, man, I got to get back to the mountains. Like, this is just not for me. And then we decided to start growing fruit and eventually progressed towards the winery.
So when did the winery actually
we
have its first yield and
Yeah.
bottles, I guess?
Well, we planted the first 3,700 vines in April of 2010. Sorry,
3,700.
June of 2010.
That feels so ambitious.
Yeah, that's a big number. I didn't expect it to be that high, but yeah, y'all jumped right in head first.
Yeah. So,
Do it right.
my father, who's no longer with us, he was just kind of like, that's how he rolled. Right. So if you wanted to do something, if you mentioned it to him, you better be prepared to go. And so we were kicking the idea around. We looked at cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, cattle, and eventually arrived on commercial fruit production. And I was talking to Dad, hey man, this might be something I want to look at. I went ahead and got a quote on the grapevines, but I'm a planner. I like to pencil whip it. So I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to work out. And then one day I got a call. He was like, hey man, I went ahead and called a nursery. The plants will be here Monday.
Man, waste no time.
Well, I mean, my father was 75 at the time and I was 25. And so looking back on it, it was a remarkable partnership in terms of you've got this very youthful, ambitious, energetic boy. 25-year-old's not a boy, but when you look back now, a 25-year-old's a lot different than a 40-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this 75-year-old gristled up, salty businessman, right? And so what I had in youth and energy, he had in experience and wisdom. And so it was just a remarkable tag team or duo. And so, I think if my father hadn't just been like, man, pull the trigger, then we would have pumped the brakes and maybe not have done it because it's a lot easier to not act than it is to act.
And was it just grapes or were you thinking about other fruits as well?
We were looking in, so we wanted to do anything that would allow the farm to become financially sustainable. So if that meant we were going to grow garlic, we would have done that. We couldn't figure out how to move bulk garlic consistently and reliably. There are wholesale markets, but it's something we didn't really want to do when we explored that. And commercial fruit being sold in bulk is pretty easy to get rid of because there are more wineries in the state of Virginia than that. The demand for fruit in Virginia is higher than what's being supplied, so it's easy to sell.
So do a lot of your grapes you outsource them and other wineries use them and stuff? Or?
Well, so we planted in 2010. Our first harvest was in 2013. We sold the fruit, 100% of our fruit for 3 harvests to generate capital to build our building. And we did weddings like crazy. So we did a lot of farm stay rentals. We've had some cabins or cottages on the farm that we'd been renting long-term. We transitioned those to short-term vacation type rentals. We got into the wedding business and we sold fruit commercially.
At that point, before you're even making wine, is it still a vineyard because it's the grapes are grown there? That's what classifies a vineyard, right? So I could definitely see that, people like to get married at a vineyard,
Yeah. Well, so it's crazy. Nate's been there and I thought as a 25-year-old that the vineyard would be what everybody wanted to see and be at. And it's really the water. So there's a stream that runs right through the farm.
We took pictures there.
Yeah.
Well, if it's beautiful, people are drawn to water.
Yeah.
And there's
Naturally.
something beautiful about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking back, we could have done all of that without ever planting a vineyard, but that would have just delayed the progression into fruit sales and into wine. But we set the vineyard out in 2010, sold fruit commercially, and then gathered the money through those fruit sales and weddings to build the winery building. That's where we actually produce the wine. Started to make our own wine in 2016 and then started to sell it ourselves in 2017. Every now and then we'll still sell fruit commercially to other wineries if we have a surplus of fruit, or in some instances we've had some winery owners that we are good friends with. We try to be very cooperative and helping to the farming community. And sometimes people in other regions will lose 100% of their fruit to frost, and they'll call in a little bit of a panic and be like, "Hey man, like I have zero fruit.
Get some,
And could you please sell me a portion of your fruit just so that I don't have a goose egg this year?" And so we've done some of that. We've helped other growers with augmenting what they have, but we try to retain it all. And now that we have the distillery, we really have no need to sell any fruit because we can take it all to either wine or to brandy. So
I can't think of a better segue because that is where we're going next on the next round. But first, let's go ahead and go around. So on the show, usually we use the Untapped app and we rate our beers. Obviously, are you familiar with the Untapped app at all?
I'm not, but I'm guessing it's like Vivino for
I was
wine.
going to ask if there was a wine equivalent, and I think I have heard the Vivino. So I think it's something similar. I'm not familiar. I don't have an account.
I think
so
the
don't know.
scale's the same.
Is the scale the
I think it's
same?
5.
0.25 up to 5 or
0.25.
something. So that's fine. We can do that. Or I can use my wine rating when I go to wine tastings and stuff. I have my own little scale that I write. So I do, it goes from a negative up to a smiley face. So negative with a circle around it, just a circle.
Is there a conversion key for this?
Plus, yeah, it's got a little bit of a thing. But the best is a smiley face, and they're pretty rare. And it's crazy that I'm coming out with the smiley face, but this is definitely smiley face means I'm going to buy I would buy multiple bottles of this wine. I can drink easily an entire probably bottle in the sitting. It's sweet. It's again, I like that. That's why I'm glad I picked this bottle. It definitely has that. Would you say 7%, 6% residual sugar?
Right. Yeah.
So it's right there. It's got that right amount of sweetness that I like. And even though I would imagine probably usually you'd want to chill this, but it's not even chilled and it's delicious and going down, which also says something about it. I've had 2 glasses because we've been chatting so long. It just goes down really, really easy. This is the, Gandy Dancer, Vidal Blanc, Ironheart, man. This is delicious wine. How are you feeling about yours, Nate?
I mean, I'm hard pressed. Ironheart, I mean, is absolutely one of my favorites. That's kind of why I was so excited to have Adam on. I refer to them as the gateway winery for very good reason. I think what they're doing there is very accessible, even if you're a casual wine drinker. Smiley face doesn't feel good enough. I'm gonna give it a star because there's no star on your scale.
You can't go above a smiley
Going
face.
above.
You can't go.
All right,
you can't
fine.
do that.
Smiley face.
You can only do a smiley.
It's delicious. I mean, I don't have. There's not a lot of styles of wine I don't like. I tend to prefer reds. The wife prefers whites, but there's something in Ironheart's portfolio for everyone. And smiley face all the way.
50 stars.
That's right. We're making our own damn scale.
Hey, the Mario movie just came out. Might as well do lots of stuff. Hey, it's Adam. All right. Well, as you mentioned, you guys are also distilling. So the next round, I'm really looking forward to trying some of that stuff.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break. We'll play a tune. We usually let our guests pick. I don't know if you're a rocker guy, but if you got a rock band or song that you really enjoy, we could probably play that, and then we'll come back and drink some I guess brandy.
Yeah, man, it's always.
What's your
always
go-to?
Get put on the spot.
Yeah. I could have given you a forewarning, but I like it. I like to, on the spot.
I have no idea. Nate, you pick something for me.
Oh boy.
Oh, that's.
Well, we could put. I mean,
my current
UB40 red wine.
Oh yeah.
well, I was thinking, what about the winery dogs?
That's also a good choice.
Would that not be
way better?
All right.
Go with winery dogs.
We'll do that. We'll play some winery dogs. We'll come back It's a special wine edition of Brewsday Tuesday right here with 105.3 The Bear. Stick around.